The guys that you're probably looking at are older quarterbacks and Brady and Rodgers, and both of them are going to be on teams, most likely, assuming the Bills win tonight, are going to be on teams that are 3-5.
Yeah.
So are they likely to be willing to at least listen offer? Sure. You got to kick the tires on it. But like I said, if me getting Tom Brady means it costs me Trey Lance, I'm not doing it. But if it costs me Jimmy Garoppolo and I don't know, a couple compensatory third round picks, sure, I'll do. Yes, in a heartbeat, I'll do that. But that's, like I said, the likelihood is slim to none. But I would, you have to listen to those conversations if they're being had. 100%.
Well, and this is the thing. Keep in mind.
Well, let me say this just real quick, because I know that there are going to be people that are going to say, "Oh, Tom Brady shot. Look at that." No, I live in Tampa. I've seen every throw from Tom Brady this year. I was at the game on Thursday. He can make every single throw still. And I will also tell you that I tweeted out before the season started that if he's going through a divorce, if this is true, that I don't think the Bucs are a threat because Tom Brady's mind will be somewhere else. I think both can be true. Does he still have the skill set? Yes. Is his mind somewhere else and maybe occupying him? Absolutely. But now that situation is settled, you give him a chance to come home and be with family, and you have to listen to it. You have to. If that is presented, you would have to listen to that.
They have in the past as well. And here's what I'm going to remind people about. What did they do? Now, listen, this is kind of a fun little conversation, right? Because, hey, the 49ers are 4-4. And you did have a big win today. But you came off last week, and boy, was that embarrassing, right? So we're all kind of like, well, yeah, you're going to the bye week, right? So it's interesting. And the trade, you're going into the bye week, and the trade deadline is on Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday?
Tuesday, I think, yeah.
Tuesday, the 1st. So it adds this drama to it. And what the 49ers have done since they drafted Trey Lance was they said, like Grant Cohn coined the term pump and dump. Oh, this. The 49ers have not always been a team that's a Bill Belichick sell high style. I'm just, I think a lot of fans would knee jerk if something happened and they're like, oh my God, after today's game, they scored 31 points. And it's like, what would you, I think you're right, Jesse. I think that if John Lynch had something like that and you had a Hall of Fame quarterback come across your table, the conversation would be had. Right. And they'd have to consider what the resources would be, because if they really think, like you said, my confidence meter, right? If they think this is a team that is a bona fide, not just like bona fide Super Bowl roster, and they just made a trade for CMC, I would not put,
Well, and also this, again, to anybody saying no to Brady, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying that I think this is likely. Him or Rodgers is likely. No. But is the possibility there for two teams that are 3-5 that Rodgers says, hey, I'm going to retire at the end of the year, potentially, that's the rumor that came out, and Brady is a free agent at the end of the year, even if he doesn't retire, like he's not going to be back with the Buccaneers in all likelihood. So would those teams possibly at 3-5 start to listen? I think that's feasible. I'm not saying that they get traded. I'm not saying that the 49ers would be, if they did get traded, that the 49ers would be that team. But look at when Tom Brady's had his most success in his career. It's when he's had an elite tight end. Check. 49ers have that.
Yep.
And a scat back that's not near the skill level of one Christian McCaffrey. Could you imagine having somebody like Christian McCaffrey for him to be a safety blanket when he's had guys like Burkhead and gone apeshit with those guys? I mean, yes, of course, if you can get a Tom Brady and it doesn't cost you Trey Lance, you absolutely do that. That is a no-brainer. That's not even a question. Even a question. Yes, you do that.
And I think that's now you've got me intrigued, right? Because like this is that idea of, you look around this team, And you're going into a team that actually is pass protecting well. And people are going to say, well, you're crazy. Jimmy played an efficient game today. Blah, blah, blah. That's awesome. I think they can actually win with, and I've said this before. Like, I didn't think that Jimmy could win the Super Bowl. I don't think he could win a Super Bowl with Jimmy. However, I said, but with the pieces that he has around him now, and with an elite defense, yeah, you could win a Super Bowl with Jimmy in that regard. You could. The thing is this: there's 31 other teams in the NFL, and you're looking at the teams that you got to beat. And we're going to watch two of those teams tonight. Well, the Packers aren't really one of those teams I consider, but the Buffalo Bills. You're looking at the other conference. You just got donkey stomped, right, by the other team. So they saw that. They know how that turned out. I'm just saying, if this team the 49ers have not won a Super Bowl since 1984 season. And if they feel like they have pieces in front of them, and there's I think the silver lining is this, or the loophole is this. Like you said, if you've got sub 500 teams and they're aging and they might be forcing retirement, or they're going to say X, Y, and Z, and they have no trade clauses and things like that, this trade deadline may be the only time that they're ever going to be able to get value for those players. It's a really weird storm. I'm not saying it's a perfect storm, but it's an interesting storm. And that, yeah, if these teams were 6-2 or 7-1 and winning their division, you're not even having the conversation. But if you're looking at a team that's struggling, and like Aaron Rodgers right now, not getting along, right, with having arguments with the coaches, Tom Brady breaking iPads, excuse me, Microsoft Surface, my bad. I'm just saying. So it's going to be an interesting 48 hours. That's all I'm going to. I'm going to be watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Twisted Clown, I think that's a fluid situation. If they were to get a Tom Brady, like I said, I wouldn't trade Trey. And here's the reason: okay. Let me be clear. If it was a guaranteed Super Bowl by getting a Tom Brady, and I had to trade Trey Lance to do that, 100%, here you go. But it is not a guarantee. It is, you've upped your chances 100%, but it is not a guarantee. And so my fear is, what if you make that trade? Tom Brady retires at the end of the year. You now have no picks next year and no quarterback. What do you do? Why would Jimmy come back? You just dogged him out again. You dogged him out again. He's not coming back. So what do you do in that situation? You're up a creek. That's why I say Trey Lance would have to be off limits in that situation. But if it was you're 100% winning a Super Bowl, then you can have really whatever you want if we're winning a Super Bowl. The package that I would be willing to give up is, like I said, if maybe they look at it and say, okay, well, Jimmy's a quarterback that we can play with over the next few years. He can be our bridge quarterback. We'll show him love. We'll bring him back for a couple years at the end of this and try to work out a deal with him. And we're going to get multiple, like say, third round picks or a future second or something like that. Then I do that because that just makes sense. And you're still keeping your future quarterback. Now, at the end of the season, if Tom says, hey, I still want to play, you have those conversations. I'm not saying that you forego Tom next year if he looks really good and you got close and you think he's still that guy. Well, then that's a whole different situation. We cross that bridge when we come to it. And I'm willing to cross that bridge for a guy like Tom Brady. I'm not willing to cross that bridge again for a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo. I know how that story ends.